course, I'm Rebecca Reid. A lot of people know me as Becki, but on the voter side, of course, it's Rebecca Reid. So every time I hear that name, I think I'm getting in trouble. So I got used to it over the years. So thank you so much for having me here tonight. I know talking about the coroner's office and deceased people are kind of not a very good topic that most people want to talk about, but it happens every day. I mean, it happens to each and every one of us. You know, it happens. So thank you so much for inviting me. I did bring some year-to-date stats for everybody, so you can kind of see where we're sitting here in Laramie County. You just want to pass those around. I won't keep one of them. So one thing that the coroner's office does is we, of course, determine cause and manner of death. So by Laramie statute, it says anything that's a homicide, suicide, accidental, undetermined, or does not have a physician stating the reason why they're deceased is considered a coroner's case. We also deal with all of our unclaims and indigents. So when I say unclaims, is we have somebody that doesn't have a family. Indigent would be someone that cannot afford their own funeral service. May have family, may not have family, it just depends. So if you look at those stats, we're sitting at about 297 for this year. We're about down 70 from last year. But if everybody will knock on some wood right now, it's been the Q word, and I don't like saying that word. And I also don't like saying the B word, which is, you know, everybody knows what the Q and B word is, just don't say it out loud. But anyway, so I'm a little worried about what this holiday season is gonna do here to us in Laramie County. Like I said, we're down about 70 cases. So I came here in 2014. I worked as just a regular part-time deputy coroner. Moved up to chief deputy coroner, and this is my 11th year this year. This month, it's November, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is my 11th year here in Laramie County, and I'm going on my second term. So thank you very much for everybody that's voted for me. So one of the reasons why I decided to get into this business is not only did I do it in Florida as a forensic investigator, but I came here, my husband's like, he's military, he's deployed in Korea, and he's like, you gotta get a job, you gotta get a job. And I'm like, I will get a job when I get there. They're not gonna hire me if I don't live there, right? I don't even have an address or a Wyoming driver's license. So we came, and we had only been here for about a month, and I went out, Marty Luna was the coroner at the time, and went out, and he hired me as a part-time, and it's different. It was a culture shock for me, because in Florida we do a lot of things different than we did here. Here we do a lot of things different. Here we transport all of our own deceased, so we have all of our own vehicles to transport deceased, that sort of thing. In Florida we had a transport company, you know, and so I had to learn a lot, you know. It's a more close-knit community here. I can get very personal with my families. I can stay on scenes a lot longer to help my families if it's a crisis, or that, you know, whether it be mental health, or, you know, they just lost, you know, their mom or their dad, you know, whatever the cause may be, we're able to be more personable here. So in the meantime, while all of this is going on, we're determining cause and manners of death. I decided, you know, we have victims advocates. We did have Grace for Two Brothers for suicide. So what happens to who's supposed to help all the families that die in car crashes, or the elderly who lose their husband or 50 years, you know? And so I asked the commissioners if I could start the Laramie County Grief Support Group through the coroner's office. And so that's been going on. This year will be our 5th year that it's been going on. It's fully funded by volunteers and by sponsors and donors throughout the community. We do a big dodgeball, glow-in-the-dark dodgeball fundraiser every year. We have vendors and, of course, dodgeball and food and that sort of thing. So we have a lot of families that participate in that, and they, you know, get a team and then they go or that sort of thing. So it's pretty awesome. So it's in April 3rd this year, I believe. So if you come check it out, tons of vendors and that sort of thing, raffles. So with that, on top of that topic, we've now, since Grace for Two Brothers is no longer around, we're gonna bring in the postvention and the prevention suicide to the grief support group. So we're gonna be working with the local mental health providers and that sort of thing to get referral programs to be able to refer, you know, our suicide lost people to those right facilities. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's gonna be a long project, but I think we'll be able to do pretty good. In the meantime, I've also started what's called a suicide fatality review board team and an overdose fatality review board team. We know Wyoming's always ranked top 5 in the nation per capita. Right now we're sitting at 2 for suicides per capita for state of Wyoming. The next biggest would be Fremont County because they have the reservation there. So with the suicide and the overdose fatality review board team, there are groups of individual professionals just like you and I in this room, and we all come together. We figure out what kind of risk factors, where can we do education, where can we do training, those types of things. And with the suicide, we've been able to actually get to the animal shelter, train them with QPR, because people are dropping off their animals before they decide to die by suicide, or go to funeral homes and make pre-need funeral arrangements. So we're in contact with both funeral homes. We've got them all the training that they need to help with those types of resources. We're trying to get in schools, because we have had a few students, or at least one student, die by suicide in the school district. So we were able to make contact with them and make sure that we can get all the training that they need for that question, persuade, and response. Has anybody in this room been a part of that training, the question, persuade, and response? It's how to know and the signs to look for if somebody is suicidal and where to go. I would love to get y'all the training if it's something you think you would like. So it's a 2-hour class, if that, and then you'll have all the resources to be able to say, do you have a plan? And if they have a plan, then you can go to the next step to figure out where you can, get them the help that they need so they don't die by suicide. The overdose fatality review board team, we know that fentanyl's huge right now. Fentanyl's huge across the nation. It actually has been in Laramie County for the last 1.5 years, if not longer. Fentanyl's a lot cheaper to make than methamphetamines now, because over-the-counter drugs, you're having to get ID. So a lot of your people don't have, valid identification on them. So they're making fentanyl. The problem is now is the fentanyl's coming over from Cuba or Korea, or not Korea, Cuba and goodness, it's one of the other ones. But when it comes in, it's not checked in through customs. So they are now as a compound of xyzine, which is a horse tranquilizer. So unfortunately, it is here in Wyoming. It is here in Laramie County. Fentanyl is now being mixed with xyzine, which is a horse tranquilizer. The Department of Criminal Investigation, DCI, has a task force team now that's monitoring the fentanyl and the xyzine use in the state of Wyoming. Of course, it's in Denver. Of course, it's in Nebraska and all our surrounding states. All of the coroners are reporting to the state DCI team because it's a post-mortem test, so it's very hard. Like if somebody was to take mushrooms, I have 12 hours to get a positive test in their blood when it's post-mortem. So xyzine, we can't figure out the shelf life of it, the half-life of it, so we're having a hard time being able to test it post-mortem. Our NMS labs that we use is out of Pennsylvania because they're forensic accredited. They are finding it, but the problem is it's getting in an airplane, it's metabolizing, so we know at least 5 to 6 cases here in Laramie County that possibly were positive, but we weren't able to confirm it. So just kind of tell you a little bit about our job. We don't just do, hey, yep, they're dead. There's more to our job. We work with law enforcement. I know that, sometimes you'll see bickering across the media and that sort of thing, and our goal is to always work together as a team. And, with the new chief of police and the sheriff, we're doing that. More meetings, trying to work. You can't do your job without me. I can't do my job without you. I don't have arresting powers, but I also don't need a search warrant to go in and look at a body. You do. So let's use us as a team. We can go in and say, hey, we see this, this, and this. Maybe you should do this, this, and this, and let's all work together as a team, because, as you see, our homicide rates are going up. Traffic crashes are going up, of course. Suicides are going up. Everything's going up. It's our population is growing. And the only way that's going to keep going up is because our population keeps growing. And some people are like, well, we never had these types of cases and this and that back in 2010, 2005. And, I'm nothing against all the other coroners, but I came in and made my office accredited by the national standards of medical examiners and coroners, so now we have certain standards that we have to follow. So we autopsy every case that the state statute tells us to autopsy. Babies, homicides, suicides, there's, if you, just, let's see, last year in Laramie County in Colorado, they signed out a suicide. Gunshot wound to the head, manner of death, suicide. Someone came back 6 months later and said, hey, I killed so-and-so, but y'all claimed it was suicide. Body was cremated. There's nothing we could do. There's nothing they could do. They didn't have the evidence at that time, so they weren't able to, actually convict somebody of a crime because they didn't do their job. So we always autopsy all traffic crashes. We don't get involved in any civil issues, any family issues, and it happens all the time. The families, oh, mom's not talking to my brother, and my brother's not talking to my sister or my baby daddy, and we don't get involved in that stuff. We listen to the legal next they can, and we make sure all of their answers or all of their questions are answered. So just a little short, sweet. That's what we're looking at doing. That's what we're doing in the Laramie County Coroner's Office. I'm fully staffed right now, so I'm super excited about that. No more working crazy hours all the time, which I still do, but I can kind of focus on the grant writing, and I can focus on making sure that my people have all their equipment and the training that they need. And it was super nice to actually have a day to where I could actually take everybody in the morgue and actually physically do some training with them. Because we do have some new people, so that was pretty awesome. Does anybody have any questions about this sheet that I handed out?
I have one.
Okay.
The one here where it says, the category, it says non-human.
Yeah. Yeah, so that happens all the time. So, Eastern Laramie County, decided that they want to dig or build a new house. That one was actually a horse that had been buried.
Oh,
and
so
I
it's
did.
not aliens.
And I actually collect all the non-human because I love bones, so I have a lot of cool bones if you ever want to see them. Yes.
I was just curious, Becki, so I did not know that Grace for Two Brothers was no longer in existence. So was that because now there's a state-funded hotline and a state-funded sub-agency to handle suicides that have basically put the nonprofit foundation out of business, or?
I don't think it's my place to speak on behalf of what happened. I will tell you that they're no longer a void and they'll never be able to use that name again.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna ask if you could send around a sheet, like a sign-up sheet for people interested in taking that course.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can put a
definitely,
name
for
in.
sure.
If you will just send me details,
Okay.
we might arrange for anyone who would like to take that course to have that course.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah. And it's I enjoy it. I do it for the first responder side of it, and I really do enjoy it. And you can play, they'll do like scenarios, like you're playing, so like if she's gonna be the one that's gonna be suicidal and I'm gonna try to talk her down, or vice versa. So it's very into there's a emotional video, and I see that every time I see that video I just tear up, and I don't know if anybody's ever been affected in here by suicide, but it sucks. Suicide sucks, and a lot of people say, oh, well, that's a selfish act, we have a problem with mental health. I mean, Wyoming itself, we just don't have the providers. We just don't have enough people to help all these people in crisis. The other day I tried getting someone in a 24-hour crisis mode. I'm sorry, our wait list is 6 months. Well, what do I do? I'm not a licensed therapist. I can't counsel them. I can't, so just trying to pull strings to get someone in there in a mental health crisis. It's just,
That's happening
it's tough.
nationwide.
Yeah.
I know people in other states.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely
happening
nationwide.
nationwide.
So, and that's another thing, we have the Live Health, 24 emergency, there on Dale Range, that new one. You know what I'm talking about, that Live Health one. I get to go tour that facility soon, and then we're also working with behavioral health team over at CRMC, so hopefully we can get these people, because with the postvention and prevention, it's 24 to 72 hours. With our families that we're working at grief, if they decline it, we always make sure that we're following up with them within a week, because mainly people do funerals within a week. So once all their family is gone and they're alone, that's the worst time for them to sit there by themselves to think about everything. So then we're coming back in. So my volunteers, along with all of my employee staff, we're keeping in contact with these families. I've been in contact with some families since the first time I've been here, you know, and I go to their little kid's birthday party, you know, and I call it the Tiger Lean, the homicide that happened at that, Anons, but I don't know why, I've always just called it the Tiger Lean. But, when she was killed, her son was 2, nonverbal. He is 10 now, right? 8, yes, 8. And we always go over there for Christmas and his birthday, and me and the highway patrolman, cause he always called the highway patrolman Paw Patrol, cause that's all he could say, cause he watched Paw Patrol. So now we call the highway patrolman Paw Patrol. So we always go over there and we bring them gifts and we eat cake with them and ice cream and everything I mean, this is not a job where, okay, you lost your loved one, you know, just call me if you need something. And we just leave. No, we're following up with these families, you know, within hours, about the death certificate, about, you know, the coroner's report coming back, the autopsy report, the toxicology. So this is something we're following up with these families for days and weeks and months on end. Because right now it's taken 10 to 12 weeks to finalize a report. And that sucks for families. I mean, they're not happy by no means, but unfortunately there's nothing we can do, you know. So with our national accreditation, we have 90 days to complete a report from start to finish. If you think about it, that's really not a long time, especially if you have a case that's still open and needs to go to trial. You know, they haven't been adjudicated. So, you know, it's hard, but come February, we'll be audited, so everybody send prayers that we pass. It's our first audit, so I'm excited about that. I mean, cause it's a learning experience, you know, it's something I could say, okay, well, I'm doing this, and this wrong, or I'm doing this, and this right, and then we can approve and make Laramie County even better.
And
Go ahead.
Is the national accreditation for coroners?
Yes, ma'am. So it's the International Association of Coroners and Medical
Okay.
Examiners. So since we're a coroner, there's also what's called NAME. It's the National Association of Medical Examiners. So some of your states are medical examiners or coroner. The only difference is I'm elected, they're appointed. And they most of the time do autopsies in-house. So when I was in Florida, we were a medical examiner's office and we had districts. Yeah. So, and I mean, it took us, I started on it while I was running in 2018. Before I was running, my husband says, why are you doing all this work? What happens if you don't win? I said, well, that's a negative attitude. I'm going to win. And he's like, okay, just let me know if you need help. And so, and I did. I worked on this throughout my whole election, you know, in 2009. So I took office in 2019, January of 2019. By March of 19, we were accredited.
Wow.
And the people were like, holy cow, you did this in such a short amount of time, because it's getting all of your office files in order. It's making sure that you have a database. I brought a database to the coroner's office. There's just a lot of things that go into it, you know, having an odontologist, you know, having your forensic pathologist, you know, you have to have all these people that are certified in all these correct fields, you know. Like the state of Wyoming, their UW program for anthropology, they can do, you know, I just had a brain fart. They can do like archaeologist stuff, but they can't do recent stuff. Like, you know, back in 2021, does anybody remember the bones that were dug up on 18th Street? So back in the 1800s, the railroad, that was their burial ground, was around 24th to 18th and all that. It goes all the way down to I-80. Yeah, I-80 goes all the way down. So this lady was doing some plumbing and stuff, and that she found bones. So it comes to find out it was a 6 to 10-year-old little boy who was buried. They put it back to 1868. So pretty interesting, pretty cool, pretty interesting find, pretty cool day, several days out there. It was pretty hot. But we just got his remains back, so I'll be doing probably the beginning of the year a news a press release, who we're gonna finally put him in his final resting place, so he doesn't keep getting dug up, so that's what it is. Because apparently it appeared that he had been dug up another time, but someone just covered it all up. So, yeah, so, and that's probably the second or the third time that human remains have been found in that area. There was an article, I'd have to find it, but when I was doing all this research, there was an article that they had taken all of the known graves that they knew that was in that area and exhumed them and then put them into the cemetery, Lakeview Cemetery. So, but unfortunately they're not marked, so we don't know where they are, but we're gonna put him in Lake Cemetery, in the Lakeview Cemetery, so that'll be pretty interesting and exciting. But the coolest thing about that was just seeing, so back, if anybody knows anything about the 1800s, and if you had money or you didn't have money, depends on what kind of clothing you wore, what kind of wood you used for wagons and stuff like that. So this family actually may have had a little bit of money because they had used cedar. So they put them in the ground and then they just put a cedar slab on top of them. So they didn't do like an actual casket or a wooden box, and it's just depending in that time frame is what type of wood you put on there is how much money you had. So that was pretty cool. I never knew that. That was pretty interesting. So, so I mean, we do a lot of things. We, you know, we speak. You know, we fundraise. We do victims. We help with victims advocates. You know, if there's something they need, we help families. Like if there's biohazard cleanup, you know, from a suicide, or you know, maybe it was from a natural death, or maybe it was from an alcoholic that had been, you know, thrown up GI blood, you know, gastric blood, those types of things. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff. We can place them into hotels for a night or two until we can get the biohazard company to come up here and clean and take care of that. But we're doing a lot of things. I can see some people have asked me, hey, are you gonna run again? I said, I'm not answering that yet. We'll see how this year goes or the next couple years go, because there's a lot of things I would like to see. I would like to see, you know, the coroner's office, and with me becoming the chair of the board of coroner standards now, which is pretty exciting but pretty stressful. I was like, oh yeah, it's just what I needed, something else on my plate. But I look forward to do it because I want to get something standardized across the state for all of these coroners. You know, we have a problem with, like, we had a case where the family lived in Powell and the decedent lived here. They didn't like how we did things here because it's not how they did it in Powell. Well, we have to meet standards, and that's how it is. You know, we got to be held accountable. And there's quite a few corners, a couple corners that are trying to do the same. You know, but it takes a lot. You got to have the facility, the equipment, that sort of thing. So it's going to take them a while to do it. But Natrona County is the only other county in the state that is accredited. Fremont County is working on it, and so is Sheridan County. So hopefully they can get their accreditation, and then we can start working on all the other ones. So that's kind of where we're at with the coroner's office and the board of coroner standards. If you ever want to listen to a board of coroner standards meeting, it's listed on post. It's a public meeting. It's always Zoom because us coroners don't like traveling for some reason. I want to go to each of these different counties, like, hey, I want to see your facility, you know. But yeah, so that's about it. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Did you get pressured, any kind of guidance on the COVID, how you handle COVID deaths?
So am I allowed to speak freely in this meeting?
Las Vegas is right here. Las Vegas.
Were there any stringy stuff in people's arteries, like TV shows?
Okay, so COVID, I wouldn't say is a sore topic to me. What pisses me off about COVID is the money that people were getting because someone was signed a death certificate COVID. So here in Laramie County, we transported every COVID patient. If the hospital, no nursing home, hospice unit, if they were at home and someone said that they had COVID, we were transporting them. We would hold them up to 3 to 4 days because CDC didn't even give us any recommendations or anything for postmortem, how long they stayed, you know, active postmortem. So we know that a body starts decomposing after 72 hours. Your body starts breaking down. Starts with your GI tract, and then it goes everywhere else. So I knew if we held for 3 or 4 days, they would no longer be infectious. The problem is since it comes to the coroner's office, then I had all control over the death certificate. So these doctors would sign, we would test these patients, they would come back negative, and the doctor signed it out as COVID. The problem is, and as we all know, is some people, with vital statistics, we had some problems with the state and the county attorneys around the state that they were changing the death certificates. And that was accurate. They still are to this day changing the death certificates. So,
To show more COVID?
to show more COVID, yes ma'am. Or just in general, changing the death certificates when they're not the ones that are signing it. So the statute says the coroner has the responsibility to sign that death certificate. Yes, I believe in COVID. Yes, I believe that people died from COVID, for, comorbidities or whatever it may be. I never had anybody die from a pulmonary embolism and it be listed as COVID. We did a lot of autopsies on COVID patients. I did get to see some crystallized lungs, which were actually pretty interesting. Other than that, I never seen anything else. I have spoke to a couple of the local physicians here in town that had patients that said, you have congestive heart failure, okay? You take this COVID shot, you're probably going to die. They would give them, and there's some of them that wouldn't even do it. And of course we had multiple, and there was multiple cases that me and a local physician signed death certificate, congestive heart failure due to Pfizer, contributing factor. Yep. So I'm not a vaccinated person by no means. I worked all through COVID. I picked up the first COVID patient out of CRMC. All of my employees all have kids, so I took it upon myself to not expose them and their children. So I did most of the COVID removals with the help of some of my people. We all hazmat at first. There were cases in homes that some of the actual mental retarded homes that we have around here, like Magic City and that sort of thing, that people were just staying sick. They tested positive. We would report, they would come back negative. So with that being said, I do not believe in someone dying in a car crash and you list it as COVID. The only way that I would say that it's COVID, and honestly, yeah, they're in acute respiratory failure or they're in respiratory failure due to COVID-19, but nobody wants to do any studies on the vaccines of what it does to a body. I've had a couple cases where they were younger people in their 30s that got vaccinated, and then 6 months later they're dead. And unfortunately they went out undetermined because nobody wants to do any post-mortem testing on what the vaccine is doing to the body, so.
I believe
No offense
the
to anybody.
CDC, I believe the CDC has like in some fine print, or Pfizer, one of them has come out and said, well, yeah, there could be a higher risk of myocarditis and, kind of a thing, because there's so many other countries besides ours that are actually doing studies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And finding it, and they're calling them out, and
Yeah.
they're
Well,
gonna kinda have to start.
I sent 4 cases to the CDC and they refused me, and I got in trouble by the state health.
Are any of the coroners still funeral home directors?
No, here in Laramie County, no.
No.
Around the state, yes, sir. And I know this is gonna be a bad topic, but it's something that we're talking about at the Board of Coroner Standards. I would really like to see funeral directors not being coroners anymore. I feel, one, it's a conflict of interest. 2, I feel that the families aren't properly being taken care of, because then the funeral director could say, well, I'm sorry that you lost your loved one, but his ass is going over here and I'm just gonna get all the money. I don't like that. That's not
Well, that
the
happened
right
in our
thing to do.
county until we had more professional coroners like you, because
Yeah.
the 2 funeral homes fought back and forth politically and ran
Yep.
against each other
Yep.
for years in order to control the.
And it's
the
still that
coroners'
way,
office.
it's still that way in the state of Wyoming, and,
Approximately how many?
20?
20 of the 23?
And one of the coroners actually owns their own biohazard cleanup business.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm just gonna tell y'all the truth, that's why I asked if I could speak freely, because.
We have our tape recorders on.
I don't care. I don't care. It's to me like, okay, so, I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna work this suicide or this homicide, and yep, I'm gonna charge you $10,000 to biohazard cleanup. And the only reason why I know you have that call is because I went on it. I just,
Then
that's
I just have
that's
to
just
know
not
who will
right.
do it for you, right?
Yeah, I don't, that's a huge conflict of interest. If I'm not allowed to do that, why are you allowed to do that? I wouldn't do it, cause I just think it's wrong. But, yes, sir, about 20 of them. And they all voice their own opinions, yes, ma'am.
Are the autopsies done here in Laramie County now, or do they still get sent to Colorado?
They still get sent to Colorado, so I mainly do all of mine in Greeley with a forensic pathologist named Dr. Burson. Very wonderful man. We were going to, Fort Collins for the longest time with Dr. Wilkerson and Dr. Allen. Dr. Wilkerson has now since moved to, San Antonio, Texas. He's one of the chief medical examiners out there. Dr. Allen, he's actually since passed away. But we'd use Fort Collins some. The problem is if anybody paid attention to anybody listened to the whole forensic pathology state by the health board that they were trying to do here in the state of Wyoming. So they wanted to hire 2 pathologists, and do I have a time limit?
That clock's not right.
Okay. They wanted to hire 2 pathologists for the whole state of Wyoming. And they wanted to put one in Casper and one in somewhere, okay? Way far away from me, right? Well, I have the most autopsy, I have the most cases in the whole state. Why am I gonna drive 2 hours to go to autopsy when I can go 45 minutes? I'm saving the county money. Yes, it's in Colorado, but I'm not holding all my people up the whole day. The problem is they were gonna fund it initially, and then each county would have to pay, to fund it, give that money back, and that's how they were gonna keep funding these pathologists. A pathologist is not going to work for no less than $400,000 a year, plain and simple. They're not. And that's a lot of money. So technically, there's 352 registered forensic pathologists in the state of Wyoming, or in the nation. Okay, so it's not a job that everybody wants to do. But we only have one here in the state of Wyoming, and they're in Fremont County. Okay, Dr. Reynold Frost. He's a great guy. He's now our pathologist on the Board of Coroner Standards. But I built a rapport with these people in Fort Collins and Greeley. They don't charge me as much as the state was gonna charge me. The problem is I feel as we as coroners, if we go to a state-funded facility, then we're going to have to listen to what the state tells us we have to do. And now we're changing statutes. And I felt like I was gonna be the only one that's gonna have to pay all that money back, because I'm the only one that has over $30,000 in their autopsy budget. And an average case is $1,500. That doesn't include your toxicology, that doesn't include biohazard disposal, that don't include paying your employees, that don't include a transcript person to transcribe it. They were looking at like $2,500 a case, and I'm like, yeah, no thanks.
And then going to Greeley, what is it?
Greeley, I can get a case done for $1,250.
So half.
Quantity discount?
It seems like it. We can transport 2, and most of the time, there's
2 for the price of 1.
2 for the price of 1. Yeah, so we can transport 2 in each vehicle, and we have 4 vehicles.
So the place in Greeley, this is private run?
No, it's the Weld County Coroner's Office.
Oh, okay, so it is government, so.
Yes, ma'am.
So to speak, but so how come we can't, be that efficient?
We have the facility here in Laramie County. I've got
So
an X-ray
Rhonda,
machine,
who's
I got
getting
2.
the extra, blow,
It's just getting a pathologist to come over here,
Yeah.
which now, since there's a lack of forensic pathologists in the nation, they're now talking about how nurse practitioners and PAs can, do autopsies with a sign off on a forensic pathologist. So I had started school again to go to med school, but now I think I'm gonna change my path and probably do PA so I can do it under Dr. Burson. So, and then we have another, PA here that I've been talking to that's gonna be willing to do it too, so we just gotta work out the kinks. Make sure the county's good with it.
Wasn't there a facility built at the Archer Center?
Yes, ma'am, that's where we're at.
Okay.
And you're more than welcome to come take a tour anytime.
Okay, so it's up and running because it was running and then there was something wrong with it. So now it's.
There still is something wrong.
Okay.
So, quick story. They decided to tie our HVAC into the planning department. They put in our morgue a swamp cooler. So when it gets too hot, we have condensation coming, which is ruin evidence on homicide cases. But when we have a decomposed body, and I felt really super bad, but last year, the year before, planning department was having their Christmas party, this and that. We're over here working on a deceased, decomposing body. That's not the nicest smell, and they can smell it over there.
Oh my God.
But think about it, infectious disease, if they can smell that, what's traveling through that air? And so we got put on the 6-penny ballot, for a new HVAC system, so whenever 20 years later, we may get it.
So that's still happening.
Yeah.
So we wanna take a winter tour.
Yeah.
Well, I do have my friend lady out there now, so she was found in a home and she had been dead for about a month and 2 weeks, so she has, just kind of put up residency in our cooler and just hanging out, so. But, yes, ma'am.
I've read about the horse tranquilizers. And
Yes, ma'am.
Why did they pick that as cheap and it's easy to get?
How did they get that?
The Xyzaline? Well, if you think about it, in Mexico and Cuba and all of that, you know, they have a lot of animal clinics and stuff like that, so I'm sure it's part of the cartels, not the cartels, but I love the cartels, don't get me wrong, I love them. But it's probably the drug cartels, you know, who's getting access to it, breaking in. That's when we met with the state veterinarian board, and DCI and some of the paramedics and stuff, we all said, and down and made a meeting, and so they actually pulled all that kind of stuff off the shelves at Tractor Supply, Murdoch's and that sort of thing. So you can't go in and buy penicillin anymore. It's all controlled, you have to have a prescription for it now, so. And then they thought about, you know, we may have some break-ins of, you know, vet clinics and that sort of thing, so, you know, as soon as everybody knew about it, they started getting on high alert with it, so.
Well, I seen those pictures and I think it's nationwide, but like the homeless people, and then they're just standing there like this. I mean,
Zombified.
this over and they're zombies.
Have you seen the pictures of where it eats the skin away?
Yes.
And it does crazy things to dead bodies, and I'll tell you this real quick, and then we'll finish questions and I'll get all y'all's hair, but, you know, the problem is for us, it's hurting us and it's hurting families to be able to view their loved ones, because I get someone and they're like, oh, I just saw him 2 hours ago and it looks like he's been dead for 5 days. You know, it's just making the body go through that whole decomposing process, like, quick. I mean, bad.
Well, what about the police officer too? I can't remember what state was it, just, touched someone that was high on fentanyl, and somehow, I don't know if they had some of the drug on their skin, but they had to Narcan the cop.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I
Is
believe
that-
all those videos.
No, okay.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm
I
wondering
was
if they
exposed
had-
to it and all I did was break out in a rash.
But, oh, well.
Yeah, but look at it.
So it is affecting you though. It is affecting
Yeah,
other
but
people
for
to
someone
be
to have to
harmed.
actually physically get Narcan, think about it. You're smoking a joint that's laced with fentanyl, okay? It's going in your system. It's gonna get into your bloodstream, it's going. I'm just gonna touch it.
Right. Yeah, I'm wondering
You
if
know,
there's more to it.
there's
Like
definitely
if-
more to
if there was some of the drug on the person's body.
Now, if he
Yeah.
inhaled a crap ton of it and it went into his nasal and went down his throat, I could see that.
Or
But
you have
just-
a cut or an open sore.
Do you know how
Right,
many,
something,
you know how
yeah.
many times that we, you know, well, this is a funny story. I mean, I'll tell you, it's funny because it happened to me, but, you know, many times that we get indigents or we get homeless people out of vehicles or hoarders that we're going in these houses and we have no clue what's in it. How many times we're being exposed to it, and I only had that one reaction to it. You know, it's just, so, I'll tell you, I shot my finger off at the office, okay? We were cleaning out this hoarder's car that was living in it, he had a briefcase. They're like, we can't get this briefcase open. I said, let me just eat my chicken nuggets and I'll come. I get really hangry sometimes. A lot of times we don't get to eat. There's a lot of times, so half the time we don't know what's in people's belongings. And the reason why I tell you this is because when we finally got it open, there was a gun and drugs inside of it. You know, but we're sitting there pounding on it, trying to get it open, and we don't know what's in it.
Right.
So, of course, it was a bunch of cocaine.
You're like,
And there was a
score.
drug, yeah. There was a gun, and it was a .454 long barrel handgun revolver, and of course, I was the only one that knew anything about guns at the office at that time, because somebody was out with COVID, the other person was out with COVID, and they were at the hospital getting someone else, so I went to go clear it, and it discharged. And my pinky got caught, I didn't really shoot it off, but it's a cool story. My pinky got caught in the cylinder of the weapon. So calling dispatch, calling 911, they said there was an active shooter at the corner.
It was the non-human coming down.
It was Ursula. Ursula is my friend there now.
Well, thank you, Becki.
Hey, you're welcome. Y'all have any other I would highly suggest, definitely come toward the facility. See if there's any way that we can help you or your loved one. Just remember, if someone is suffering or they need any help, we're here to help anybody. I don't care if they lost somebody in Colorado or other parts of the state or in Florida, we're here to help everybody. So that's what we're here for. So I appreciate the time and thank you for letting me come out. It was super fun.
Thank you.